Welcome to Bake to the Future. The wholesale baking industry mixes tradition and innovation to feed the world and the economy, generating some major dough while employing nearly 800,000 people in the U.S. We bring you a fresh take on the latest trends and issues impacting the baking sector through exclusive insights and conversations. Brought to you by the American Bakers Association, who will take you bake to the future.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Haley Blumenreich.
And I'm Katie Jewell.
And today we are bringing you a look into baking manufacturing's technology today and into the future. Innovation in the manufacturing sector has been happening for decades, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a particular surge in new technologies, and we are so lucky to have the perfect guests with us today to understand the intersection of wholesale baking and technology, Akeem Babatunde and Dan Vanderhoef. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for joining us. A little bit about our guest today. Dan Vanderhoef is a managing director with Accenture who helps his clients identify the challenges that matter to them, then finding ways to address those challenges and improve business performance through, quote, new ways of working, which often involves the use of new digital technologies and cutting-edge capabilities, including AI, automation, and analytics. And Akeem Babatunde is director of continuous improvement manufacturing at Kroger, where he is responsible for 35 manufacturing facilities, which make products like bread, crackers, and other snacks. He has managed and directed food manufacturing operations for over 30 years, and we're excited to hear how he has seen it transform over time. And he is a member of ABA's Education Committee, which helps run and advise ABA's educational programs like the Baking Manufacturing Academy and ABA's annual technical conference.
That's correct. And Dan has his own keynote session at TechCon Beyond, where he's talking about the connection between artificial intelligence and the baking industry. I know I'm super excited about that one. And I should mention that ABA's 2020 TechCon is free this year for ABA members. So before we get to the show, we have to ask our guests our next Great Bake Debate question, which is our new segment on the show where we pose different baking food debates. So this time, our question is, what is the proper way to cut a bagel? From top to bottom or from left to right, more horizontally? What do you guys think? Akeem, Dan?
I'd say from left to right.
Okay, so you're a horizontal guy, like a little sandwich style. Okay, Dan, what about you?
Yeah, horizontal and anything to the contrary, we need to explore that further. Something's wrong with those people.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys remember Bagelgate of 2019. It was sometime in the spring. I think it was a social media phenomenon where I believe it was, was it in Michigan, Haley? I can't remember. Chicago somewhere where they slice it vertically in small slices. And it was just a big to-do.
That sounds like it's right up there with scooping out the dough inside the bagel to then put toppings and other ingredients inside the bagel. You got to go. And you have to eat the whole thing. I don't understand.
Oh man, so like a bagel bowl.
Yeah,
you know what? Bowl. I think I could get on board with that though, Dan. I don't know.
I did not realize that scooping bagels was controversial, but maybe that should have been our question this time. Okay, well, moving on. Our next hard-hitting question that we must get from you all is, what is your favorite baked good?
Favorite baked goods? Mine will be muffin.
Any particular style?
Oh, anything muffin.
Even those like crazy like fiber-filled muffins, or are you more of the blueberry style?
Blueberry style also. Okay. Yep.
All right.
What about you, Dan?
Muffins are delicious, Akeem. So I agree with you 100%. I'd say my favorite baked good is probably a little bit nostalgic. The last few years, my daughter and I have been firing up the Patti LaBelle sweet potato pie every Thanksgiving. Yeah. We made one the first year, and then it was so good we made two, and then we made three the year after that. And so now we're at a 3 to 4 pie output targeted for this Thanksgiving. Absolutely my favorite baked good, not just for the experience, but also because I make a darn good Patti LaBelle sweet potato pie.
Oh, well, this is impressive. Both, good job, guys. So both on the sweet spectrum of baked goods. So, well, thank you for that. And also, before we get into the show, Akeem, a special question for you, since you have been in the baking industry for 30 years, or in food manufacturing for 30 years. What brought you to the baking industry?
Well, I've been in food manufacturing for over 30 years. A little bit about myself. I've worked in snacks. I've worked in fresh vegetables. I've worked in the mill operation. But I got this opportunity through a recruiter to go work for Kroger at their largest facility in Columbus, Ohio. That's really what brought me into the industry.
And is there something about the baking industry in particular, and how long have you been with the baking industry? Is there something in particular that you find more appealing than the other sectors?
Yeah. So in the baking industry, it's the camaraderie of the industry. When I came in almost about 10 years ago now, the encounter that I had with the mailers that have been in the industry for quite a long time, just calling to solve issues that you have in your bakery. And really, once I attended one of the ABA event, I was hooked that this was something I wanted to do. And so I got involved in the TechCon, got involved in the education committee to help support that. And I've been doing that for some years now.
Well, that's just awesome to hear. Thank you so much for giving us that insight. It's always really interesting to hear how people get into the baking industry and how they get to where they are now. And certainly you've seen a lot of changes happen in food manufacturing overall, and certainly in the last 10 years in baking. Kind of asking both of you, but maybe I'll start with Dan. Why is now an optimal time to embrace technology?
Sure. I'd say not only now, but probably yesterday is a good time to embrace technology. I think there's probably not a person on this podcast nor listening to it nor attending TechCon that doesn't have a smartphone, right? And so and you probably have a smart device or two, perhaps, at home. You look at sort of the way that our daily lives are impacted. Technology is pervasive; it's ubiquitous. So if you translate that into business and the way that companies and manufacturers and bakers and shops are running their business, you almost have no choice at this point. I'd argue that you don't have a choice. And arguably that problem's been exacerbated and magnified with the events relative to COVID-19, right? And the need to digitize practically everything that you do and to work and live virtually. We're all doing that now. And I don't think while some circumstances may change, I think as far as proximity and the reopening of the economy, things like that. At the end of the day, technology is here to stay. And there's never been a better time to take a step back and reevaluate what kind of business do you see yourself running 3 to 5 years from now, and is it fundamentally aligned with what you do today? And if so, how do you digitize as much as possible? Because that will increase your relevancy and arguably future-proof your business moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I will add to that. We're in a low margin industry, and what technology does for us is it helps us with our productivity, improving efficiencies, all of which improve the value that we add to the organization, and also how we present our product to our consumer in different ways. So technology is more than ever important to our industry, especially just look at what we just went through with COVID. Something totally unpredicted, and we had to respond to make sure we have product on the shelf at the grocery stores. And I'm sure if we didn't have technology, our ability to respond to that challenge might have been hampered.
So what are some specific examples of, maybe technology that wasn't around even 5 years ago that you're talking about improving efficiencies? Like what sort of things are you talking about specifically?
So let's just take maintenance, for example, right? Because the capacity in the plants can be impacted by the uptime, what we call the uptime or the reliability in your plants. In today's environment, there's something we call predictive maintenance, and that is just based on your runtime, being able to predict how quickly you need to repair your equipment before they go down. In the old days, people run to fault. They don't maintain their equipment until it goes down. Then they put a lot of labor against it. But in today's environment, you have to predict based on your runtime when to go down and do your maintenance, and that helps us increase our capacity running in that facility, and that's a big one there.
And how is that determined, Dan? Is that so we're talking. I know that I want to talk a lot about AI and that's artificial intelligence here. So is that an example of AI at work in a plant, or what are some examples there?
Absolutely. So just to build on the example that Akeem articulated, predictive maintenance has a number of components to it that can help improve your business. But AI, artificial intelligence, is certainly a part of that. Think of equipment being connected, almost as if it were a part of a network, right? And if you have parts or an assembly line or some plant equipment that you can connect with a device, right? That device will then provide data, right? And if you have data, then you can start to take more action with that data that you otherwise couldn't do previously. So when Akeem hits on the point of predictive maintenance, imagine a scenario where you have a connected plant, a connected facility, and these devices with the data that's being provided to you actually leverage whether it's automation or artificial intelligence insights, right? And recommendations on what to do next. When should I be replacing certain parts, certain equipment? Can I automate the decision making to perhaps even get the procurement process started in advance when I know that the forecast requires as much? And then having the AI engines, the artificial intelligence, the beauty of this that we've really started to see expand over the last 5 to 10 years is around how the learning takes place, right? So these platforms and programs really can take lessons learned from the past and then start to get smarter and make better recommendations for the future. So to Akeem's point, all of these things help run a business more efficiently if leveraged the right way. Whether it's improving top line growth, right, and getting access to more customers to sell more goods, or it's improving your operating margins. These are predictive maintenance is certainly an area that requires, or that should be requiring connectivity and insights moving forward so that you can help optimize your operations.
So I have a question. I'm going to stop hogging the mic here, but I just think that this is super fascinating. You've said connectivity several times now. I've been into a few bakeries. I'm still, fairly new into this world. And are they really, like, how connected are they? It sounds to me like you're talking about a lot of Wi-Fi. You're talking about a lot of internet capabilities that I'd imagine are going to be even more important now that in the COVID era, where there's going to be a little bit less face-to-face interactions. Is that something that bakeries are investing in or should be investing in?
Well, I can give an example of how I guess sometimes when we talk about AI, we might be thinking of it as something that is just out of the world exercise. But the fact of the matter is, in most of our plants, we have equipment that probably have some controls on them. And sometimes the way we maximize the AI part of that functionality is to connect different equipment, right, that have different functionality to help us deliver results. For example, we go through a lot of ingredients that we mix in our mix plants, right? In the good old days, people have pens and paper that they weigh each one of those ingredients, and then they add it to the mixer, and then they start to mix with dial knobs. In today's automated bakeries, all of that process is automated. We have silos with cells on them. We have programs from an OIT that is, they pick a formula, for example, and automatically, various amounts of different ingredients are delivered into the mixer, and the mixing process all starts automatically. The mixing process is finished. Products goes into the proofers, goes into the oven. All of this is now automated and connected. And so when you go to a modern bakery today, it's totally different from what it used to be 30 years ago, where there's a lot of manual measuring and manual moving of the process along.
That's really cool. And I imagine that helps a lot with preventing mistakes going wrong and things like that.
Absolutely. You can imagine, I remember when I first joined, again, 10 years ago, one of the things that would drive me crazy was having what is called a bad batch, and that is when you've added either the wrong amount of salt or the wrong amount of other kind of ingredients in the mix, and the product doesn't come out right. And it takes a lot of effort to get it out of the process. So think about that, right? You lose the time to continue to run. You waste that product because in most cases you can't save the product. And you have that happen on the shift, then obviously it could result in having some service issues because we make fresh products most of the time. So yes, automation and technology have helped improve waste in our plants.
And I'm also curious because, I really like how you kind of laid out the process and how technology has really been able to optimize the process. And I'm wondering, where, with all this technology, where AI can come in and technology can come in to the human element and the actual people working in the facilities. Where Dan and Akeem, do you see technology helping with that?
Yeah, sure. Akeem, I'll be happy to start. So on the human side, a couple of thoughts come into mind. I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the current situation that we're in with COVID and human interaction in the facilities, right? So at a minimum, leveraging there are abilities now, right? Leveraging AI and technical platforms to take aggregate data. When I say aggregate data, I mean publicly available data and the data that you have for your employees and your customers, if it exists. And we can talk about that more later. And really get it more on the safety side around contact tracing, right? So thinking about how to know if your facility is safe, when it's safe, where your employees have been, where your ingredients have been, looking at your supply chain and having that data at your fingertips, where your customers have been. Are there any risk areas near your plant or your store, et cetera? So at a minimum, just thinking about the safety aspect and leveraging AI to have a more robust ability to get insights around contact tracing for safety is where I'd start. Another one is really around, to the point you addressed earlier, around just making decisions, right? To the extent that you can leverage technology to remove the mundane decision-making and allow your employees, right, the brains on sticks, the smart people who understand the industry, understand the business, understand the customers, allow them to really focus on the decisions that matter, the macro decisions, and perhaps automating or at least having suggested recommendations through courtesy of technology to help you with the more decision-making. It all comes down to saving time, saving money. I love what Akeem said around preventing the bad batch, right? You don't get that time back. You don't get those ingredients back. And so there are ways to smartly and optimally insert humans into that process and remove them where it makes the most sense. And we're seeing that in spades across multiple industries.
Yeah, the other thing we can add to that is if you think about our industry right now, with a lot of the veterans retiring, the way we are capturing knowledge and make sure we don't lose those veterans' knowledge permanently by digitizing processes and protocols, such that if we have a new associates that come into our facility, you know, the time it takes for them to become an expert in their process is shortened because now we're digitizing some of those processes and protocols that the veterans have learned for years and years. And that, again, help us sustain the challenge that we face in staffing with qualified operators and running part of our facilities. And you can do that, in video format, right? In class training, using maybe some facilities have those videos provided by our OEMs that we can use. Some are developed in the plants by themselves, and they can pull those kind of information up on the screen right on their line to see what they're supposed to do next, which steps they're supposed to follow. So the way of training new associates is also impacted by AI.
And it's interesting that you say that because AI, it's artificial intelligence, but it's informed by human information, which is interesting. And I'm wondering, I do not work in a bakery, nor do I work in AI. And so I'm just curious, if a bakery or a company is looking into investing in technology, we're talking very broadly. I mean, this is not off the shelf solutions, or is it? Kind of, how does that work? Do I just Google ineedai.com and then some solutions pop up and then I just subscribe to them? How does that work?
It's a great question. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Googling of AI after this podcast if we're lucky. So I'll start, and please catch my blind spots here. It's not a matter of just, this is Dan speaking here. My view is it's not a matter of pursuing the shiny object or the cool object just to say that you're doing it. You will find businesses out there that do a better job. Some do a better job than others at truly unearthing and unpacking the problem statement and the problem that they're trying to address. And the companies and individuals who do that best are then able to diagnose what the right solution might be to address those problem statements. So that's where I'd start before Googling anything. The second thing I'd ask is, once I have an appreciation for what my business challenges are, let's just say I need to digitize operations, and let's say I need to pursue what I call the Holy Grail for the Monty Python fans out there. It's increasing your customer satisfaction with your product and your services, while also decreasing the cost to serve those customers, right? So things like looking at your enterprise resource planning systems, looking at your point of sale systems, looking at little things like how those are hosted. Are they, yes, I'm going to say it, are they in the cloud, right? There are less expensive ways to run your business and sort of run the basics without even dabbling in AI, right? So moving operations to the cloud, moving systems to the cloud is a way to help you improve your margins and your operating income. There are also some opportunities, depending on the scale of your business, to automate the mundane processes through robotic process automation. You'll hear the RPA is an industry term thrown around a lot. Ways to perhaps do front office, back office processing, invoicing with suppliers, et cetera. And when it comes down to predictive, right, AI, there are lightweight and heavier platforms that are off the shelf, but there are also just programs that developers have mastered that are AI relevant programs that you could actually do some custom development depending on the problem statement that you're trying to address. So it's a wider range, but you really need to know the problem that you're addressing first. Akeem?
Yeah. Well, I wish it was just as simple as saying, I want AI and, organizations just go ahead and make it happen. But obviously, how does it really fit into the strategy of the organization? The reason why AI, I think, we haven't seen a lot of traction in our industry is because obviously it's a huge capital investment in most cases, but also just the success rate. If people embank on this and then they have a bad first experience, then they don't want to do it again. But first and foremost, I think, is to get your senior management group to be excited about this and be able to convince them that it adds value to them and improves, the bottom line of the organization. And they begin to listen to you to present that. The other thing I would suggest is that make sure that your organization is actually ready for this. And what I mean by that is the culture of the organization, right? Because again, like we say in TechCon, we always talk about people, process, and then technology, right? So make sure that the culture is ready to take on this and that they are going to support to make it successful when you start that project.
Yeah, and just to complement what Akeem just said relative to the investment, I've seen more success with customers and clients who move out of the notion of what you'll hear around proof of concept. You'll hear a lot of POCs, right? I mean, you can POC yourself to death if you want. We're encouraging our clients to move more to what we call proof of value, and to break that down in real terms. Having a business case for an investment and deliberately tracking progress against that business case and demonstrating value to the business not only justifies the investment, but to Akeem's point, it does help get that institutional and cultural buy-in that is so critical for the next proof of value that you're looking to roll out. And then after several of those, then next thing you know, you're now a digitized organization. You've got buy-in top down, and you're thinking about an innovation culture, right? You're thinking about, gosh, what are we going to be doing 5 to 10 years from now? What steps can I be taking now that I have this platform in place, this foundational layer in place?
We are going to wrap up soon, but I just want to hear from you all on this is already very future focused and really cool and innovative, but in terms of like 10 years, 20 years, 50 years in the future, where do you see technology and artificial intelligence going, and what can we expect, maybe either on like a very specific, like some specific cool technologies, or maybe on like a broader scale? First, Akeem.
I've heard the phrase autonomous manufacturing or smart manufacturing floors. And my way of thinking about it is, in today's environment, you still see a lot of people that are still doing mundane work. And some of the food industry, like in snack, they're much further than baking, is to see an environment in which there's a lot of automation. Just imagine like a command center, for example, right? Where you can see, the inventory level of all of your raw materials. You can see what is coming in, what is coming in as far as raw materials, what you've been displaced as you make your production. You can even go beyond that to see how the orders are coming in, such that, the work people are doing is value added. Again, we're making fresh products. So order comes in, we make it so we can have product on the shelf. But also just the interaction of future operators. Today's we have maintenance mechanics and we have operators. Does AI help us kind of match those two roles such that future operators are technically competent because we have the tools to help improve their knowledge and their skill sets to help the facilities? Just some examples of what I think in 10 years we'll see.
I agree with Akeem. That's great. And the items that came to mind, Katie and Haley, were really around, if you think ahead, and yes, I'm going to throw another buzzword out there, but blockchain is real. Blockchain is going to be ubiquitous. We're not even going to see it when it starts to be pervasive in our lives. But supply chain visibility on global blockchains, that is going to happen. It's already happening to a degree. here's why that's important, and why I think it's real, and why I think it's inevitable. If you look at the baking industry, you look at pre-mix ingredients, you look at the mixing process itself, you look at baking, you look at the desire to prevent the bad batch, as Akeem said earlier, where you source your goods from, and understanding not only just locationally, but just quality-wise, what have those ingredients gone through on the path to make it to you? That matters. And right now, it's built on trust, it's built on reputation, and all those things matter. But as global supply chains become more and more real and cheaper and more accessible, what's going to happen is the trust is going to have to occur. The visibility into the quality of the products is going to have to occur. And that's why I see a big opportunity for supply chain visibility on sitting on top of global blockchains. That's probably a whole additional podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole separate thing you're talking about there. That and I think that, like you said, the global supply chain growing and the world becoming smaller, and especially as the world has kind of shifted based on COVID, and I think that there's going to be different standards and who knows what coming out of this. Having that traceability and that trustability is going to be something that we're really going to need to really be able to do for our customers and the end consumer. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know before we wrap up, we will say thank you, but then I want everybody to stay around to listen to our Great Bake debate from last time. But before that, Akeem and Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Katie, and thank you, Haley.
Likewise, thanks so much for the opportunity, and looking forward to TechCon.
Yeah, and you can hear Dan at TechCon on October 27th in his keynote, which is called AI 101, Beyond the Buzzwords and Into the Bakery. And TechCon will also all be available on demand after the event. And yeah, I'm excited to see your session then and continue learning about technology in the baking industry.
Yes, and I would encourage everyone or anyone listening to this podcast to sign up if you haven't already signed up.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you, Akeem. All right, so Haley, we had the Great Bake debate. It looks like we got a good number of responses this time. So, what was the question? What's the results? Let's hear it.
So, our question from last time was, how long do you dip a cookie in milk? And we had some good responses. 16% said quick, more of a 1 second dip. 16% said there's a scientific method, and well, this is one person responded. There's a scientific method, and it all depends on the thickness of the cookie. Thinner cookies, a quick dip will do, but thicker cookies will need a longer dip in the bath to get the full effect. That's a great point. I definitely am learning something from this whole process.
But then nearly 70% of respondents said that they put their cookie in for a long time. They like the soggy cookie. So there's that.
I definitely am in that camp. But now that I know about the different thicknesses of cookies, I think I might need to and it's more of a nuanced answer. I totally agree with that.
But I do agree with this crowd. We should have expected someone to say this is a scientific method, and the actual way to do it depends on the type of cookie and all that. So I'm not surprised by that. So thank you so much for listening today. You can listen to our podcast anywhere podcasts can be found, including Apple, Spotify, Ghana. What else we got? Google Podcasts, and you can find more episodes on baketothefuture.org.
Bake to the Future is brought to you by the American Bakers Association in partnership with Human Factor. To hear upcoming and past episodes, go to baketothefuture.org. Bake to the Future is produced by Haley Blumenreich. Audio engineer is Blake Alton. And A Slice of the Action is written by the American Bakers Association's Government Relations team.